How is understanding fair use an essential 21st century skill? Everyone in this class logs in on a device that is packed with copyrighted materials. It is a contemporary fact of life. From the very application used to view the courseware to the content of the course itself, filled with articles, videos, and audio, a copy is made and stored. So, are we guilty of copyright infringement?
Copyright? What's copyright?
It's the right of the owners to control.
Right? No! Copyright? What's
I heard from a teacher who had heard from another teacher who had gotten an email about somebody who had heard something at a meeting where it was actually possible for you to get in trouble for using videos in the classroom.
For many educators, this captures how they come to understand copyright. Or maybe their friendly neighborhood librarian has a chart with educational use guidelines. Or maybe they have done a little research on their own. Or maybe they have just given up, don't ask, and keep everything behind the classroom door. For most, the word copyright means confusion and fear, which is affecting us all.
copyright? What's copyright?
Copyright's for the people.
Copyright? What's copyright?
Copyright's to promote creativity.
We're definitely at a moment of transition, a moment where an old media system is dying and a new media system is being born. An era when spectatorial culture is giving way to participatory culture, where a society based on a small number of companies controlling the storytelling apparatus is giving way to a much more complex mediascape where average citizens have the ability to seize control over the media technology and tell their own stories in powerful new ways.
These new media creators include our students.
It is now anybody with access to a $1,500 computer who can take sounds and images from the culture around us and use it to say things differently. These tools of creativity have become tools of speech. It is a literacy for this generation. This is how our kids speak. It is how our kids think. It is what your kids are.
So, are our students criminals, guilty of copyright infringement? The answers are not that simple. In the book Copyright Clarity by Renee Hobbs, Carrie Russell from the Office for Technology Policy at the American Library Association explains, those who prefer a yes or no answer may be troubled by the ambiguous nature of fair use, but fair use cannot be reduced to a checklist. Fair use requires that people think.
Use rights, Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. The doctrine of fair use tells us that we can't use a quote stuck with no pay, no permission.
Fair use allows you to use copyrighted material without permission or payment when the benefit to society outweighs the cost to the copyright owner. Fair use helps to prevent copyright from becoming a charter for private censorship. Fair use is flexible and dynamic. It favors transformative uses, those which add content to and repurpose copyrighted material.
We can replace copyright confusion with a shared understanding of how copyright and fair use protect us as media literacy educators in building students' critical thinking and communication skills.
In the formative white paper, Confronting the Challenges of a Participatory Culture, Henry Jenkins establishes the idea: one important goal of media education should be to encourage young people to become more reflective about the ethical choices they make as participants and communicators and the impact that they have on others. The same could be said of educators. These ethical choices involve a deeper understanding of copyright and the doctrine of fair use.
We can use or quote copyrighted material without permission or paying a license fee when the cost to the copyright holder is less than the benefits for society.
Copyright law is friendlier to good teaching than many teachers now realize. Fair use is like a muscle that needs to be exercised, but people can't exercise it in a climate of fear.
Exercising fair use and using copyrighted material enriches creative teaching and learning through appropriation.
It empowers us. It gives us a sense that we can participate in our society in new ways. We look at the other media from a different direction. As content, we can appropriate, remix, manipulate, transmit.
Henry Jenkins also states in his white paper, appropriation is understood here as a process by which students learn by taking culture apart and putting it back together. In this new media system, participatory culture shifts the focus of literacy from one of individual expression to community involvement. Educators have an obligation to, as Jenkins puts it, help youth think more deeply about the ethical and legal implications of repurposing existing media content, and they often fail to provide the conceptual tools students need to analyze and interpret works produced in this appropriative process. These are critical thinking skills that require reasoning and judgment amidst ambiguity, precisely the kind of skills needed in the 21st century. The truth is, students will appropriate with or without us. So the question is, are we going to help them to do so ethically, legally, and transformatively?
Transformativeness, 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 add value, repurpose.
Educators need to be able to claim their right to use fair use, and we need to teach it to our students. In an increasingly copyrighted world, fair use makes it possible to develop critical thinking and communication skills that are essential for participation in 21st century life.
The Code of Best Practices in Fair Use for Media Literacy Education, a joint effort between the Temple University Media Education Lab as well as American University's Program on Information Justice and Intellectual Property and the Center for Social Media, documents the best practices for the educational community. So since communities of practice help to define fair use, educators who reclaim it can not only help students become more creative and collaborative, better critical thinkers and communicators, they can advance new media teaching practices and with their students spread knowledge for the benefit of society. Some of you may be wondering about Creative Commons. Founded in part by Lawrence Lessig, Creative Commons is an alternative licensing system. It is, as their website explains, a nonprofit corporation dedicated to making it easier for people to share and build upon the work of others, consistent with the rules of copyright. However, what's important to understand is that material licensed through Creative Commons is also subject to fair use.